Hello lovely people, how are you all doing today? I hope you are all well. I thought we'll do something different today. Well, not different, I haven't done for ages, and that is, let's have a basket of random chat. Let's delve into the basket. So if you've not seen my videos before, what happens is sometimes I'm in the middle of something and I have a thought, excuse me, lip smacking. I have a thought and then I think, oh, I'll talk about that at some point. So, I'm going to forget. I scribble it down and I put it in the basket of random chat. It's going to be random. Right, okay, let's start off. This is in the bottom. Yes, a book. Straight in with a book. I won't spend long on this. Bernardine Evaristo's Soul Tourists. Now, I read 18 months ago, can't remember now, I read her book, Girl, Woman, Other. Oh my goodness, it's brilliant. I loved it. She won the Booker Prize for it. Not surprised. I loved it on so many levels. I loved her writing, you know, first and foremost, but her characters I could identify with. I think I identified with all of them. The settings, there's quite a bit in London, in theatre world, you know, I identified with it all. Really clever and a really clever kind of tying it all in together by the end. I know some of you have read it and enjoyed it too. Loved it. And so I sort of said to myself, right, if, you know, next time you get an opportunity to read one of her books, grab it. So a friend of mine passed this on to me last summer, actually. She said, would you like it? And I said, oh, yes, please, because I loved Girl, Woman, Other. I'm dying to read more of hers. It's very clever. What do people say? Innovative, dazzling, exuberant. There's no doubt about it. She's a brilliant writer. But this one for me, it didn't quite hit the mark. We meet, there's two main characters who are both sort of lost in a way, lost emotionally. And they go on a literal journey, a sort of a road trip across Europe, and they become, you know, a little bit lost, you know, lost physically, it's lost the metaphor. There's a huge amount, and it's to do with identity. Who am I? Where have I come from? Where am I going to? But where have I come from? What's my heritage? So both her characters are black, and the guy in it, apparently he has the ability to chat with ghosts. So I loved this bit actually. Throughout and all along, we get to meet some black figures from history who are amazing, but who are perhaps not well known enough. So he has chats with them. So one of them is, I think, was she a prostitute that Shakespeare used? Mary Seacole, the amazing nurse. You know, everybody's heard of Florence Nightingale. Finally, people are starting to hear about Mary Seacole. And so it goes. There's is he a eunuch at the court of Louis XIV? Is it not a eunuch? And then anyway, so off they go. They're on their travels. They're both trying to find themselves, they kind of become a couple. And is it more a case of people clinging to a life raft? Are they clinging to each other for dear life rather than actually really loving each other? Yeah, what did I make? So the one thing I did make a note of, I didn't gallop through it. I read it in, you know, quite big chunks. But it wasn't one of those that I thought I can't put it down, or for instance the next day or the next evening I think, I can't wait to get back into it. I just didn't care too much for it. And I thought possibly one of the reasons, I wrote a note to myself here that after weeks and weeks and weeks of non-fiction and some absolute belters at the end of last year, maybe it just takes me a while to get into creative writing that's, you know, this sort of expressive, descriptive writing again. Maybe that's all it was. It was taking me too long to get into that. But her writing is incredibly fluid. Sometimes it's really spare, incredibly short sentences that deliver everything we need to know about that situation, those emotions. She is a brilliant writer. It's playful, imaginative. She uses poetry. There are sections where the dialogue between main characters is almost written as a script. So it's very easy to follow who's chatting. There's a lot about it that that's really fab. I don't know why. I can't put my finger on it. Is it because of because I haven't really been reading much fiction of late, or I think fundamentally maybe what it is I didn't particularly care for either character. I didn't really care what the outcome was. That's it. That's the essence of it. I didn't care about either of the characters, and I didn't really care how their journey ended. And I think that's the issue, isn't it? If you're not invested in the characters, then what's the point of going along on the literal and the metaphorical journey with them? So, brilliant writer, brilliant writing. Or is it brilliant? Is it that brilliant if she didn't get me? I highly recommend Girl, Woman, Other. I thought it was an absolutely stunning, magnificent book. Soul Tourists, it's going to the charity shop. Right, what else is in here? Not that. Oh yeah, okay, this is really really random. I was thinking about this because of, I'm going to have to pack my books at some point, and I am an expert book packer. Books were my profession for so many years, and I'm talking about working with really, antique books, rare books, fragile books. I know what I'm doing when it comes to packing books. And at the bookshop, now books are heavy. So someone commented to me once about saying, make sure you get small boxes for your books because they'll be heavy. Like, you're talking to a professional book dealer. I know how much books weigh. So at the bookshop, we had made for us, especially for us, boxes for our books, which were quite shallow, but they were quite wide. And you could fit, for example, with some of the larger format, say this is one of my books, you can find inspiration in everything. It's by Paul Smith, the designer. You could fit books like this, you could fit two side by side in the box. Or when we go into, is it B format? I can't remember the names of all formats. This is in, this is a great book, The Golden Thread, How Fabric Changed History. That's in my shop, you can buy it. But books like this, they could fit like that, one there, I'm looking from ahead, above with our boxes. So yeah, we designed them very carefully and very specifically for our moving around of books. We go to someone's house to look at if it's a big library, and there's a lot of books to cart away. So the size, we perfected the size in terms of how to fit the books in, but also because they were only shallow-ish, they never get too heavy. And they were made for us by a company called Argolins, Argolin. They were either Argolin or Argolins. When we first got them, because we managed with all sorts of other boxes before then, but when they first arrived, so we had them, they arrived all flat pack. I mean, we had hundreds of them. We used to keep them under the stairs in the basement. So if one of my colleagues was going out on a book call, or if I was going on a book call, we might shout down to whoever's in the basement, can you toss me up a couple of the Argolins to distinguish them from any other boxes? And I don't know why, but in my head, I heard Argolin as like Miriam Margolyes. I don't know, it doesn't really work, does it? But it sort of scanned, it was a Miriam Margolyes. The Argolins, Miriam Margolyes, I don't know. Anyway, eventually, well, not even eventually, quite quickly, these boxes became known as Miriams. So if someone was downstairs, I'd say, can you chuck me up a couple of Miriams? And no one outside would know, what are you talking about, Miriams? Why are you calling your box Miriam? Because Miriam Margolyes, it kind of scans with Argolins. Miriam Margolins. Anyway, yeah, I just thought of that the other day when I was thinking about packing my books, and it just put a big happy smile on my face, remembering that, you know, that how we were such I mean, we were a very small company, but just incredibly close, worked really closely with each other, but also we were friends. We were all really, really close as friends, and just all those little in-jokes that develop amongst a group of friends. And yeah, Miriams as a word for a box. Can you pass me a Miriam? And a box appears. Anyone else would think, what? Why? How is a box a Miriam when it's a Miriam Margolyes? Right, what's next in the basket? Oh my goodness, so I heard this the other day and I was absolutely flabbergasted. So the thing about a basket of random chap, I don't have a random chap down here. The thing about the basket of random chat is that there's no segueing. There's no theme, it's just what's in the basket. Okay, so this I heard quite recently. I must have been listening to a programme about food. What would I have been listening on? I can't remember. Radio or something. But they mentioned that in Britain, our average consumption of chips, what some people might call French fries, you know, fried potatoes, cut up potatoes fried. They're not French fries. French fries are skinny little horrible things. French fries maybe you might have with a burger, but French fries, ooh, no. Chips, proper chip shop chips, chunky ones that go soggy in the bottom of the tray because you put I just salivated, there's so much vinegar on them. Oh, okay, so apparently, well, they didn't ask me, but in a poll, British average consumption of chips, they also included oven chips, so those that you put in the oven yourself at home, as well as chips bought at the chippy, the local chippy. We eat as a nation 3 portions per week. I mean, I can't fathom that. 3 portions a week. I don't think I even eat 3 portions a year. Okay, am I really, really unusual? Or who did they ask? Do you eat 3 portions of chips a week? I certainly don't even eat 1 a week. I don't eat 1 portion a month. For me, well, you know this about me. For me, a bag of chips is what you have at the beach, at the seaside. If you go to the seaside for the day, have a bag of chips. Calories at the beach don't count. It's like someone said to me about calories at Christmas don't count. You know, I love a bag of chips. And I think because I only eat them maybe once or twice a year, I kind of think, well, I don't care. If I was eating a bag of chips every day, then I'd be worried about my health. But when it's once or twice a year, anything in moderation, you know. For me, it's the law that if you go to the seaside, you must eat a bag of chips by the sea, guarding them from the seagulls. Get off me chips! Anyway, so do you eat 3 bags? Not 3 bags, 3 portions of chips a week? Even like, say, oven chips, which are, you know, I think they're slightly healthier than chip shop chips, just because they're not deep fried, are they? Excuse me. They're roasted rather than fried. Oh yeah, I was gobsmacked, absolutely gobsmacked at that figure. Okay, also in the basket of random chat, let's pop those there a second. I mean, for goodness sakes, this. Why have you got a plug in your basket of random chat, Vivi? Because, thank you for asking, this blooming plug. Right, I don't know if you can see. Oh, the camera's it's not going to focus. It's snapped. There's a wire there that's blown up. This is the plug for my DVD screen. And as you know, and I still haven't watched any yet, as you know, at Christmas I was gifted, thank you Barbara, those 3 DVDs of different Shakespeare, different productions of Shakespeare done over the years. And I thought, oh, I know, I kind of finished my working day a bit early that day. I'd finished about 6, which is quite early for me. And I thought I'm going to treat myself to a bit of shaky. No, it must have been another day. It must have been even earlier than that. It must have been more like 4, because the shops were still open. It must have been more like 4 in the afternoon. That's a really early day for me. Anyway, so I bend down over there by the sofa to put the plug in, and it's like this flash of sort of blue light. I jumped back. Now, I didn't get a shock, thank goodness, but one of these, the wire just went tsh, and obviously the screen didn't work. But it's a silly design, this plug, because that's where the cord was. So if I just hold this bit here, you can see it's very top heavy, really top heavy, that plug. So it just kind of bounces. So you just literally got the wires there. It's just bouncing around, bouncing around. And obviously, without me realising, one of the plastic coatings of the copper wire, it's on the neutral wire, had obviously just disintegrated, and I don't know what happened. I don't know what caused the flash, but anyway, so I unplugged it, and I thought, oh. So I thought, never mind, I will rewire my plug, because guess what? I taught myself to rewire plugs when I was a teen. And then I came to it, and it's a completely sealed unit. Sorry, you can't see. It's completely sealed. Look, there's no screws. There's no way into that plug. So I can't unscrew it, because what I was about to do was unscrew it, take the wiring out, cut the cord back to here, strip the wires bare, get them fed in there, and rewire it. You can't, because you can't get into the plug. And I thought, oh, you're joking. Right. Huh. And it's like, I know it's only a little thing, but I just feel like, over the last year, how many things, the freezer, the fridge, the parapet wall, that blooming chimney. We had a pipe issue. And I was like, please, can things now stop breaking? So anyway, off I went to the hardware. I've got my little ironmongers here, popped in there, and I said, I really wanted to do a 2 Ronnies, the 4 candles sketch, fork handles, plug. And he gets him a bath plug and puts the bath, 13 amp. He wants a 13 amp plug, talking of 13 amp. So I grabbed the plug off the shelf, and it was 13 amp. But I needed a 3 amp fuse. Now, fortunately, you see, this is the other thing, because I can't get into this, I don't know what ampage the fuse is. You can't, you're supposed to be able to get in there to change the fuse. So I didn't know what amp fuse to have, but fortunately, further down on the cord, I can't show you because it's all attached over there. There was a little label still stuck on from when I bought it that said it has a 3 amp fuse. So I bought a 3 amp fuse. And I was chatting with my guys at the hardware store. Obviously, they know me pretty well from over the years. And I was, saying to them, I haven't had to change a plug. I haven't had to rewire a plug since I was about 16 or so. I mean, everything comes with a plug on it these days. You buy an electrical item, it comes with a plug. But I remember, when I was a bit younger, when I was really young, you didn't necessarily get a plug already attached. So you sometimes had to buy the plug separately. Put it this way, fortunately, I had taught myself when I was really young to rewire a plug. I might have even taught myself to do it for a Girl Guide badge, for my Handy Woman badge. And once you've learnt something like that, you never forget. So got home, done. My wire strippers, I've only got quite big wire strippers. This is too tiny, so I used a pair of my embroidery snips because they're really tiny. But it did occur to me, I thought, I wonder, I don't know, with the younger generation, like my friends' kids are all in their, most of my friends' kids, should I say, are in their late teens, and some of them are into their early 20s now. Do they know how to rewire a plug? It's life skills, isn't it? We've talked about this before. Basic things like sewing on a button, repairing a rip in your clothes, hemming your trousers if you need to turn the hem up, being able to take your U-bend off to clean it out if you've got a blockage. All these really basic things that we do to maintain our homes, our clothes, our lives. How many of these skills are just being not learned anymore? And I was going to say not taught, but you see, I don't think it is necessarily the job of schools to teach that. Maybe it is in home ec. Surely it's the job of parents to be teaching their kids how to do these things, or encourage the kid to go off and learn it for themselves like I did. Anyway, yeah. It's like, stop breaking. I don't want anything else to break. Anyway, so I've got my new plug on it now. I still haven't watched any of those DVDs, but maybe I'll watch one this evening. You never know. What else is in here? What's coming up? Oh, yeah, this is, way before Christmas. Well, not way before, about a couple of weeks before Christmas, Richard and Paul, in one of their Sunday chats, had mentioned that because they do a little bit of a telly review at the end of each Sunday chat. They said what they've been watching on telly that week. And one thing that's been irritating, Richard's really irritated by it, and getting more so by the week, is the number of programmes. So this is on commercial TV, so it's not the BBC. Actually, the BBC are doing it too, but I'm going to talk about a commercial one. The number of programmes, let's say it's a 1 hour programme, and the start of the programme is preview clips of what's coming up in the next hour. And we can have 3 or 4 minutes of this is what's coming up, this is what's coming up. It's like, I don't need to know what's coming up because I've sat down to watch the programme. I'm going to know it because I will see it over the next hour. And quite often, what I found, they were mentioning, and now I'm seeing it as well, is, so on commercial TV, there are ad breaks generally on the hour, quarter past, half past, quarter to. So there are 4 lots of ad breaks around the clock. And before the end of, if we say these programmes are in parts 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, in part 1, towards the end of part 1, they'll say, coming up after the break, and they tell us, so we've already had a preview at the top of the show, and then before the ad break, coming up in part 2, and it's like, but you've already told us what's coming up because you told us at the top of the show what's coming up, and now you're telling us again what's coming up. Just get on with telling us the thing. And then you have the ad break, and they'll say, they'll recap what happened in part 1. I mean, it's bonkers. So I actually, look, because I'm a nerd, I thought, I'm going to... See, I've written it all down. The stopping is up. I didn't do it with the stopwatch. I'm not that much of a nerd, but I made a note of the times. So this was a programme. I think this was one of the episodes of Winter on the Farm. So this was back last December, and it's a 1 hour show. But they had the whole what's coming up and coming up in the next part, and what you just saw in the previous part, but what we're going to talk about in this part, and plus all the ad breaks. So in a 60-minute period, only 37 minutes was the programme. 37 minutes out of 60. So there was a little above 15 minutes of adverts. So 37, 47, 52. So there's about 8 minutes spread throughout at beginnings and ends of parts. 8 minutes of being told either what's coming up or what has been. 60 minutes reduced to 37 minutes of actual produced telly, as in new information or whatever. I just wrote at the bottom in large letters, can you see, padding, it's all padding. So in other words, you sit down to write a script for a 1-hour show. Let's say there are 15 minutes of adverts. You need to write a 45-minute script. No, you don't. You only need to write 37 minutes of script, because the rest of it can be coming up, or this is what you just saw. And now we're going to show you something different. And this is what we're going to show you. We're not going to show you what we're going to show you. We're going to tell you all about what we're going to show you. Madness, madness, madness. Mini badges. How do I... Oh, do you know what? Just give me a second. I want to get... I need to get another layer. That's better. It's just... I just needed a little... just got my blanket on. Just having that momentary feeling of chilliness. And also I clocked the time. So I'll begin to wrap up. But, okay, so there's still a load of stuff in there. But let me pick this one out as the last one. And I have no idea what prompted this. It's gone in there, and I'm looking at it thinking, I know exactly what I'm talking about, but I'm previewing. Don't just get on with it, Vivi. I'm just hoist by my own petard. Mini badges. Let's go back to, I think this must have been going on either, I think it was like really, really early 80s thing, 1980s thing. There was a fad. And it kind of makes me go, ugh, if people didn't wash it first. There was a fad for shrinking wrappers, food wrappers, shrinking them in the oven and making them into a badge. In particular, we did this with crisp packets. Am I ringing bells for some of you? Do you remember the crisp packet badges we would wear? As in, you know, like brooches, lapel pins, whatever you want to call it. Or sometimes I can't demonstrate down, that's too far down, but if you had like a little canvas bag that you wore cross-body, you put a load of badges on it. So yeah, this maybe it must have been shown on Blue Peter or something, and I have no idea why I've thought about it now all these years later. But I was thinking, I wonder if that still works, because modern crisp packets have changed, haven't they? They're like foil now, aren't they? Whereas in the 80s it was more plasticky. I don't know. But for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, literally a crisp packet that's, you know, whatever, yay big. And I can't remember if we attached the safety pin before it shrank. Maybe we did, in order so you didn't have to stick it on. But then they would go into the oven, or was it under a grill? I do remember trying it and failing a few times because of burning. It might have been the grill. That heat would make it shrivel up and shrink and shrink and shrink until it was about that big. So it goes from that to this little tiny, tiny little thing. There was like a miniature of the real grown-up thing, because it was the real grown-up thing shrunk. You used to have a little, you know, Golden Wonder. What happened to Golden Wonder crisps? Do they still exist? So when we were kids, it was all Golden Wonder, and then later on, Seabrook's crinkle cut salt and vinegar crisps, yummy. All this Walker's business now, is that a brand name change? Were they Smith's crisps as well? But most of it was Golden Wonder. That was the crisp of, that was the brand name that was around. So we'd have these little shrunken crisp packets. Oh, look at my brooch, aren't I clever? But then people did it with all sorts of sweet wrappers too. So you'd have a marathon bar. And yes, it's called marathon, not Snickers. It's still marathon to me, even though I can't stand them. I've never had one. And they're still opal fruits. And they are made to make your mouth water. What they're called now? Starburst. Stop calling them different things. They're opal fruits. Grr. I sound like a grumpy old woman. And it's Jif, not Sif. And it's oil of Ulay, not... I had to think then, because it's so long. It's oil of Ulay, not oil of Olay. on your face. How dare our names get... It's all been done to make it work in every country in Europe, I think, isn't it? So that we all have the same branding. And then talking of dubbing, and then you can dub over some Spanish lady talking about cleaning her house with her sieve, and you can tell she's Spanish because of her tongue placement, because there's a lot of ing. We don't have that tongue placement so much in the UK. Anyway, so yeah, the crisp packets and toffee packets shrunk. But also, do you remember, some of them would be like a little piece of... I could have done with having a... If I got a pen to hand... Oh, I can't be bothered. I can't be bothered. It was like a little piece of knitting. But they were done on cocktail sticks. So if you imagine getting some cocktail sticks and doing some knitting, and then one of the cocktail sticks would be left with the knitting hanging on it, with maybe about 1-2 centimetres of knitting hanging down, and that became the brooch. So you'd have... I can't remember how we fastened the pins to it, but you'd have a brooch that looked like a knitting needle with knitting hanging off it, and it was this little cocktail stick with miniature knitting. Do you remember those as well? And then also, and this was one that I did because I can't knit. Well, my nan tried to teach me. I have the patience of a goldfish. Goldfish might be really patient. I have the patience of something that's not very patient. So I didn't do the knitting needles one, but my friends did. So the one I did was, again, using either cocktail sticks or matches, but obviously take the live end off, or use spent matches. A little... paint them different colours. So you have to sharpen the end if it's a matchstick, or if it's a cocktail stick you don't need to sharpen the end because it's already sharp. You paint them all sorts of different colours to look like little coloured pencils, and then paint just right on the end of the point the same colour, so it looks like... And then they were mounted on a piece of cardboard all set together, so you'd have a little brooch that looked like a set of coloured pencils. It just seemed to be a fad. It was early 80s, wasn't it? A fad that just like suddenly everybody was into, making little brooches for yourself of miniature bags of crisps. I mean, yuck. Miniature bits of knitting, miniature bits of coloured pencils or whatever. I'm reckoning there's a ton of you at the moment going, yeah, we did that. Maybe you were even more creative. Maybe you did outside of the crisp packet. Yeah, I can't remember what they all were, but they're the ones I remember. The shrunken crisp or toffee wrappers, the knitting on a cocktail stick, or the coloured pencils from cocktail sticks. Happy days. You know, you see, this is before the invention of PlayStations. So, I'm just thinking, it's like, I played in the muck and it were grand. But honestly, you know, I think we were more inventive with our play and being creative, because we didn't have gadgets. You imagine kids today. Can you imagine getting a bunch of 12-year-old girls together and saying, why don't you make some jewellery out of crisp packets? You know what, they might find it fun. They might find it was definitely fun to watch it. It must have been the grill, because you could watch it happening and quick catch it before it bursts into flames. All right, well, on that note, I've tickled myself. On that note, I'm going to say, enjoy shrinking... I want to try it again. Enjoy shrinking crisp packets. I think I might have to have a go at that again. Anyway, sorry, I'm utterly lost now in the desire to go and make some brooches out of rubbish. I'm waffling. I need to go. Please, all look after yourselves. Enjoy whatever you're up to. If your plug blows up when you're plugging it into the wall, I empathise. Yeah, hopefully that doesn't happen to any of you. And the main thing is, I didn't get a shock. 'Tis good. Keep an eye on your wiring. I think that's the lesson from this, isn't it? Is when you've got plugs like that are floppy, just keep an eye on that wiring. All right, lovelies, see you all again really soon, I hope. Until then, cheerio.